Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are having a fantastic day. So today's upload is going to be a video, yet again, obviously about the weather. It is going to be a video talking, where we talk about the long range and the short range simultaneously. We'll be talking about the temperatures, especially, in a little bit of the precipitation as well. Just a general forecast of what's to come, what to expect across certain parts of the United States. So, if you would like to subscribe, you don't have to, but if you like weather-related content, if you like any sort of forecasting, if you want to get your, right now I'm not uploading daily, but soon I will be, your daily feed of weather. Please consider subscribing. If not, perfectly fine. Also, if you are a supporter of this channel, consider liking the videos. That helps out a lot as well. So right now we're looking at the GFS model, Global Forecasting System, and basically what I'll be talking about in this video is the fact that there will be a feature that occurs that we haven't seen in a very long time. Now, this isn't any winter storm or any hurricane or any sort of exotic event. It's just basically above average temperatures across a good portion of the country. And this winter's been warm. However, this spring's been really chilly. And it's been cold out down, I have to say. And the thing is that we'll be looking at above average temperatures for a good portion of the country. And the last time that happened, that was March. Okay, so it's been over 2 months ever since that's occurred. Well, yeah, it's been around 2 months since that has occurred. Above average temperature weather regime. The last 2 months have been relatively chilly. May and April were both cold for a good portion of the country, excluding maybe the southwest, where it was a bit warm. And let's look at the GFS model. So this is a 2-meter temperature anomaly, which basically tells us above average versus below average and how the magnitude of that. So you can see that right here, we have, say, almost no color. That basically means that it's as close as it can get to average. And as the darker colors get for the orange, they're more above average, and the darker the blue into the purple into the pink, that's below average. So right now it's below average across the northwest and just generally the west, and it's really a breakthrough pattern. We've been seeing very chilly temperatures across the eastern U.S., and now we're finally going to start seeing the above average temperatures. So it's a little like it's like that transition period. Okay, but then notice you could see the first day, tomorrow, Saturday, or today, the day I'm recording this, is it's above average. And while yes, there's some below average features like this little system that's associated with us with a little I guess disturbance in atmosphere that's going to bring some thunderstorms and some cloud cover, which obviously reduces some of the temperature. Notice the west is actually significantly below average across this portion, and it's not really where this is. It's not really here where we get really the heat. It'll be above average for sure, and you can see that it's like especially across this part of the country where we see this type of heat. And again, the reason this being so unique is this part of the country has been below average for a good portion of March, for April and May. So now seeing that it's above average is definitely a pleasant change. It's gonna actually be maybe unpleasant for some, as it's going to bring in some summertime heat, 80s, maybe even some 90s as the further you get south you go. But notice, I just want to point out the extreme temperature anomalies that are by James Bay. Just to give you a reference, here polar bears live by that little corner right there. That's a polar bear national park. I don't know if that's actually what it's called, but it's along those lines. And if we were to look at a 2-meter temperature shaded, I mean, it'll be warmer across parts of southern Canada than it will be across North Dakota, or even into North Carolina. You can see right there it's pretty chilly. So that's extremely above average for that time of the year. Well, it doesn't seem hot. 70s again. That's where polar bears live. So gives you a little bit of a reference. Gives you kind of an example. You can see some 80s as well. Let's go back to the 2-meter temperature anomaly, and let's take a look at what's to come after this. So we're looking now at hour 48. This is Monday. You can see here's the date, Monday, May 25th, and this will move as we move this along. So notice that now we're looking at Monday. Again, this below average wave across the country really shows itself during the daytime. So the daytime highs will be lower, while the nighttime you can see it's a bit below average, but it's nothing too cold. And we start seeing the heat return back into the west while this feature starts to dwindle and this heat starts to expand. So notice that we continue this into Tuesday. Now Wednesday. This moves into into the southern U.S., into Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, while the heat really just expands across the Great Lakes and even into parts of the West. You could see that there's already excessive heat watches issued across parts of California, Nevada, and Arizona. That is basically due to these extreme temperatures that will be occurring because of this extreme above average. And you can see that the orange really dominates the map. While there is a little bit of blue, you can see right here, there's an area across Oklahoma and Texas and went to the north. It really isn't significant. And while it does make several comebacks, you can see right there, it's not as significant as the above average. The above average colorations, that's insanely above average. That is way below above average than you'll see below average on this map. So it's that same kind of deviation from the norm. And notice the West really just starts heating up. Granted, this is one model, so it probably will change, but it's been generally a trend that it's going to be warm across much of the United States, with little pockets of cooler air here and there. But notice if we put this into further motion, this kind of bubble from the west moves further east, and we really start seeing warm temperatures again across the eastern U.S. Now, you see a lot of blue and maybe not convinced by this heat. Let me tell you that the way this map is created, the cold or the blue colors show up more than the orange colors. Okay, if you were to look at this, look at this right here. Look at Arkansas. That is the same coloration as is Pennsylvania, the same level of coloration, I should say. That's around 2.5. That's around 2.5 below. And this one stands out way more than that one. So it's really, I guess, biased in the sense that the blue stands out more than the orange. And again, the orange will definitely be by far dominating most of the country. There's going to be pockets of cooler air, not really associated with any phase shifting in a pattern or in the atmosphere, more likely with a storm system or a cloud cover due to a storm system. And obviously where thunderstorms do develop, I want to show you guys this cool feature. You can see right there, look at that. Do you see that? That is basically thunderstorms that erupt during the day, and they're gone, and those anomalies basically, get destroyed during the day, or they kind of disappear. The reason for that is thunderstorms always cool off the air, and the reason for that is, well, thunderstorms are really high, they're really tall, especially this time of the year. They really tap into that cold air. As you go up further in the atmosphere, it gets colder, and they bring that down as a downdraft. That's usually where we see the strong winds. In some cases of thunderstorms, it always brings in that cooler air from the very north, from the north altitude, from the higher altitudes. And you can see that disappears as soon as the thunderstorms are basically gone. It's not major, but it definitely does cool things up, and that's why thunderstorms cool things off. There were some indications, though, 6 to 10 day outlook, if you see, from the Climate Prediction Center in May 28th through June 1st, generally above average. And if you were to look at the, the 0 to 6 day outlook, generally same thing right here. A little bit cooler across Texas because that little band of cooler air across the west moves towards the south, and then the heat takes over in the west. And generally you can see warm dominates. And then precipitation wise, we see a below average for the north and above average for the south. That's probably just to do with several systems, and that's why precip is way harder to predict than, say, temperatures. So if we were to look at the 8 to 14 day outlook now, May 30th through June 5th, a little bit further out, you could see that some cooler temperatures may start getting in here. Now, whether or not this is the case, we'll have to see. The European model at the beginning was trending towards some cooler temperatures, but now it seems to have really disclosed that. But again, the GFS is just one model, so it can't be too heavily regarded. Look at this. Below average temperatures for much of the north central United States are below average precip and above average across the general southern U.S. And that would make sense, as if a cooler air mass would to come, then that would kind of, make a barrier across this part of the country where the precip stays below that. And that would obviously lead to above average there and below average to the north. So that's definitely something we'll have to monitor, whether or not this cooler air will turn into something more significant. Again, the European doesn't go out that far in terms of anomalies. But here's, I guess, a graph of a little bit higher in atmosphere, what's going on. It relatively often reflects what's going on at the surface. But you can see that we see above average, and they don't see much cooler air at all. See this globe right here, this cooler air mass. This was supposed to be, coming into the eastern United States as previous model runs showed. However, with the most recent one, it stays to the south, or stays to the north, and affects portions of Canada. Not really the U.S. at all. Maybe parts of the Northeast, extreme parts of the Northeast. So now let's look at the ensembles to get a quicker and more broader view of what's to come. And this is not just one model, so it's just not really biased, I guess, if you will. Since one model could really be erratic. Notice that the Climate Prediction Center really nailed this area across Texas and Oklahoma being below average. If you were to look at this, I'll play this forward really quickly. Notice that it just stays there. It's stubborn. So, and that's why it marks for the 6 to 10 day outlook below average temperatures for those parts of the country, Texas, parts of New Mexico, and extreme parts of eastern, western Louisiana, and parts of southern Oklahoma. So let's take a look at this overall. You notice that it will be a phase shift from warm to cold at times, but generally, again, the warm air dominates. And you can see across the northeast there could be a couple of invasions of cooler air. Really not much of an invasion, more of a taste of cooler air. But you can see the warm air just really tends to dominate, and that's going to be the trend into the coming weeks. Now, whether or not that will hold in through the month of June, that's tough to see. With the La Nina pattern possibly developing in the Enzo, in the El Nino Southern Oscillation area, that could possibly mean a hot summer for the United States. Now, if you were to look, at the forecast brought to you by maybe the Weather Channel or AccuWeather, they're showing above average conditions, which I would say there's a fair shot for that. I wouldn't say this summer is going to be a cold one. There's a bigger chance for it being above average and cold at this point. Though again, that definitely could change and probably will. But the question is, to what degree will that change? Now let's look at the EPS, European Ensemble members, and much of the same story. A little bit more cold to the north, some ominous cold you can see right there, possibly making its way down beginning of June. We'll see. We'll have to see. At this point, though, the warm air will be dominating, and that's again something we haven't seen in quite a while across the central and eastern United States. So that will be very fond for many people, as it's been cold, muggy. The winter was just disgusting. Constant rain or snow, kind of a mixture. Just above average winter sucks. And then when we had spring, it's time for warm up. It just stayed basically the same because it got really cold. So now we're finally getting a taste of that summer. And I'm speaking for the folks across central U.S. and eastern U.S., but not necessarily, the west or the southwest, especially where it's been consistently pretty above average. So that's basically it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Consider liking the video if you want. Consider subscribing, obviously, if you want. And I'll catch you guys in the next episode. See ya. Bye.